Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and this is set number 75640, the Baratie Floating Restaurant from the LEGO One Piece theme. This set contains 3,402 pieces, 10 minifigures, and retails for $329.99 in the US. I'm doing reviews of all the LEGO One Piece sets right now, so let me know in the comments which set you want to see a review of next. But now, with that said, let's get into this review. Here is the Baratie, the biggest LEGO One Piece set so far. Hopefully we're going to get more LEGO One Piece in the future, but at least as of right now, there's only one wave, and this is the big flagship set of the wave, the $330 Baratie. Personally, I think this was a really cool choice of a set to make a giant version of. Sanji's my favorite One Piece character, at least so far. I've not finished the show yet. And this is, of course, the set that ties in with his whole backstory. Beyond that, though, it's just a really cool idea. A pirate ship that's also a restaurant's really cool. I love the giant fish head at the front. That's just visually very unique. And lots of very cool stuff goes down at the Baratie in the show, so that leads to an amazing minifigure selection. There's so many minifigures in this set that only come in this set, but of course we'll get into those later in the video. For now, though, I guess let me move the camera up a little bit closer so that we can take a look at everything that the build of the Baratie has to offer. We'll start with this deck here at the front of the Baratie. First off, I love the scale of this. It's huge, but it's also quite plain, so it's really just 4 posing minifigures. You can cover this in figures if you want. There's 2 circular jumper plates in the middle where minifigures are supposed to be attached, and the intended minifigures are Zoro and Mihawk, though of course you can attach whoever you want, and this platform is meant to be where they have their big fight. There's this little gear piece that pokes out underneath the platform, and when you turn it, it causes each of the platforms to spin, so that way you can simulate the fight between Mihawk and Zoro. Their swords are at slightly different levels right now, but if I move one of them down a little bit, now they might actually hit each other. Oh, that might have been too much. Let me try like that. Maybe something like this. There we go, they clashed, but they got pushed out of the way. And there we go, Zoro won that fight. But because the platform's so big, there's plenty of room to swing their swords. You can see Zoro could do a full 360 even with the one sword in his mouth. Or alternatively, the large platform gives you plenty of room to pose other figures who are watching the fight. The greebling on the platform I think is great. It's got the right amount of texture while still being overall very flat. There's a good number of studs too, so you can actually pose minifigures on it. They don't just sit there loosely. But there's not too many studs either that it looks ugly. In my opinion, it's the perfect balance. And if you're not a fan of this platform, or you just want to separate it to display like Mihawk and Zoro separately, this does actually come off. There's 2 Technic axle holes on the inside of the platform, and 2 axles that come out the front of the Baratie. So if you prefer to display the set without the platform at the front, that's an option you have. If, for example, you don't have a big enough shelf or whatever. Personally, though, I do think it looks best with the platform attached. Moving on to the entrance of the restaurant, it's very elegant. We have these 2 mermaid statues on the outside. They each hold a lantern and have one hand up. And the mermaid tail piece, I believe, is one that originated from video. It's not the more common LEGO mermaid tail. It's got a nice shape to it, though. And it's cool to get these solid sand green pieces, especially the hair piece, because that's a really common minifigure hairpiece, but I believe this is an all-new recolor. So these 2 are almost like bonus minifigures in this set, while also being great decoration for the restaurant. There's a sticker for the teal door right here, a little sign right above it that says Baratie, and there's this nice gold trim that goes around everything. We've got some newer parts such as these slope pieces right here. I think those either come from Mario or Speed Champions. Then there's a window right above that uses the LEGO Star Wars Gungan shield piece, again with a sticker on top of that, but that's transparent purple. And we've got more of those same gold pieces to frame it. Of course, to get into the restaurant, you can open this door up right here, though we're not going to go in just yet because I want to finish taking a look at the outside. But yeah, this entire platform section right here is great. Then the walls to the rest of the restaurant at the ground level are built using like giant sections of paneling, and that's to create a very slight angle. Like this looks almost flat, but it does curve inward a little bit. And it's a small thing, but it is something I really appreciate about this set, because if this was perfectly locked on a grid, I mean, it would look fine, but I also feel like it would be very generic and would still just feel like a regular restaurant. This very slight curve does give it that pirate ship feel. It makes the building process more fun, and it makes the end result a lot more unique. You can see on these sections of the walls, there's not just studs that go up, they also come outwards. So that opens up a lot of possibility for texturing, and they still managed to keep these windows in here too. There's another door right here with like the Baratie logo on it, the skull and crossbones, but instead of crossbones, it's a knife and a fork, and he's got a little chef's hat. This door can open up as well, and that gives you entrance into the kitchen, and there's a little platform right outside that to pose minifigures. It just provides you with another way to get in and out of the restaurant. Just like the other platform too, this one can be removed. Not really sure why you'd want to remove it, because it does look significantly worse without it, but hey, that is an option you have if you want to reduce the size of this. There's just bars on the inside of the platform, and clips attached to the restaurant, and of course very simple to slot back in. These paneling sections are very sturdy. You can see there's like a little bit of give here if I'm actively trying to wiggle it. And I will say, if you're moving this around a lot, these can dislodge off, like they can disconnect. I built this entire set while I was away from home, and this did break on the way home, but like it does have to go through a lot to break. If you just have it on a shelf or you're just like moving it around on a desk, it's probably going to be fine. As far as paneling goes in a LEGO set, this is one of the sturdier connections I've seen. Here on the other end, there's another slightly smaller piece of paneling. You can see the main structure of the restaurant cuts off right here, and then this entire section is what angles. We've got a stickered window piece right here, as well as, of course, more of these brick-built windows that are also everywhere else on the build, and the little, blinds on these are able to be closed up if you want. I really like how the pirate ship parts of the build sort of taper off right here. There's some fun shapes in there too, like this little circle. But then we come to what's probably the best part of the build, at least visually, the fish head at the front. This is what makes the Baratie iconic to me, the fact that it has this giant fish head built into it, and there's seating area within the fish's mouth. But this is just so cute in the best way possible. I love how cartoony they went with it, even though this set's technically based off the live action. It still uses these very rounded parts and very solid colors. They didn't try to over detail anything, and I think that works perfectly. The upper part of the mouth especially I find quite impressive because they use these LEGO Dreams pipe pieces, and it just frames everything so well. The angle it creates with the rest of the head's very impressive. And then we have these large rounded pieces in gold underneath to create the rest of the mouth, and it all comes together so well. This looks fantastic. Something a little bit weird is this door right here. Now in the show, this is a minifigure scale door, right? This is another way to enter the restaurant. But in the case of this set, it's a little bit small. As you can see, Nami right here is bigger than that door, and that is just a sticker tile piece. It's not an actual door, so it's not able to open at all. There's no way to enter the restaurant from here. And I will say that's definitely a bit strange. The reason for that is, of course, that this set is downscaled. In the show, this is significantly bigger, so if they made this to scale, it would cost way more money, so they downscaled it to make it more affordable, and I totally get that. However, it does make the scale a little bit odd when the main entrance is minifigure scale, but this is not. So I don't entirely know how I feel about that, and I don't know what the best option is, because if they put a full-size minifigure scale door here, they would have had to redo a good bit of the interior, and the fish head probably wouldn't look as good. So they could have downscaled everything, including the main door, but I think that would look awkward as well, and I think it would be a shame if no minifigures could fit inside. But at least to me, having the tiny door next to a full-size door does feel a little bit off. But also, if you remove that entirely, it would look like something's missing from the build. So yeah, I don't know what the right answer is here. I think this was a fine solution. Definitely is a little bit strange, though. Before we move on from the fish head, one last thing. I think it would look better if there was a pupil in the eye. Luckily, that's very easy to customize. If you just have a 1x1 circular tile like this, I think that gives the build a much more cartoony look, and feels a lot closer to the anime, even if the original build's just fine as it is. But yeah, that is a modification I might recommend you make, especially if you're a fan of the anime more than you are the live-action show. One more thing on the outside I forgot to mention before we move inside. Right above the main door, there's these two lanterns that hang down. They've got some sticker tiles with these little triangles on them. They look good. It's a bit more interesting than just doing things unstickered. But now I think let's open the main door up and move inside. We'll take a look at the top in a moment, but the top sort of ties in with the interior, so I think it's better to look at the ground floor first. Moving inside, I mean, wow, I love this. It's beautiful, it's spacious. There's so much room for minifigures beyond even just what comes in the set. It's elegant, it's detailed. I was expecting to like this when I bought this set, but I cannot believe how blown away I am by specifically this interior. From the outside it looks cool, but the inside's what made me really love this set. It might sound a little bit funny, but honestly the best comparison for this set for me is the Mos Eisley Cantina set from LEGO Star Wars. I bought that set a few years ago and I just fell in love with it. I loved how it didn't feel cramped. I could fill it with all the minifigures that came in the set and just a ton from my own collection. It truly felt like a proper location build, and I don't think I've bought another set that feels that way until this one. So let me move the camera up closer and we can take a look at all of it. So there's the door to get in back there, and I just really want to give you a sense of the scale, how big this actually is. Starting from that first black stud inside of the building, this entire area is 20 studs deep. And for the entire dining room, so black stud to black stud, it's 27 studs wide. So yeah, suffice to say that's huge. And I love that it's not jam-packed. They're not trying to throw references and furniture in every single part. No, it leaves so much open space to pose minifigures. Just like on the dock out front, they have a nice balance of studded and unstudded parts. The unstudded parts definitely look a lot nicer, but the studded parts allow you to pose minifigures a little bit easier, and they strike a nice balance here where you can put minifigures wherever you want, but it still seems very elegant and furnished. When you first enter the Baratie, there is two wanted posters on the walls, one on each side. These, if you don't know, are the collectibles of this wave. You get at least one of them in every single set, and which poster you get is random. There's 8 total posters to collect, and you get a total of 5 in this set. In my case, I got Kuro, Don Krieg, and then in other parts of the set, Luffy, Gold Roger, and finally another Don Krieg. So no, you are not guaranteed to get 5 unique posters. You could very well get duplicates, because I got 2 Don Kriegs in this set. In fact, across all the sets, you get 15 total posters, and I did not collect all 8. I got 7 of 8. I'm still missing Mihawk. So yeah, keep that in mind. You get random posters, and it is very fun to collect them, but you may not end up with every single one. So it might be good to try to find people to trade if you can. Anyway, those first two posters are at the main entrance, but then you walk out onto the main floor right here. Here we have a very pretty gold table with some transparent green in the middle, and 2 chairs on each side. The chairs are made to be very easily removed, they just connect on jumper pieces. So if you want more room in here, you can take them out, or you can move them over to different jumper pieces, if you want to have them elsewhere in the build. Then on the corners, we have 2 identical tables. The food on them is slightly different, they both have lanterns and chalices, but this one has some berries connected on a leaf, while this one has a little sandwich. These seats are big enough to pretty comfortably fit 3 minifigures, so you can see I have Luffy, Usopp, and Nami right here. And then this entire table is able to spin around, including the seat. So that way you can adjust things to your liking and even get a better view of your minifigures if you want. Here's how the 3 of them look all sitting around the table. And of course, the other table has the same amount of room and can also rotate in the same way. Beyond that though, the dining room is just mostly open. There's a little orange lamp at the back, and in fact there's one of those on both sides. But again, I really just want to reiterate that the biggest draw to me here is just the sheer amount of open space. There's the perfect level of furnishing where it doesn't feel empty, but there's still so much room to pose minifigures or have characters fight, because you know, it's One Piece, fights happen. It's just so well done. Of course, in the center of everything there is this spiral staircase. The little golden railing that it has looks very nice, and at the top right here we have a little stickered circle piece, and that's got the letter B on it for Baratie. At the top of the stairs is like a little 6x4 stud area, but there's also these little curved platforms that minifigures can walk onto, go through these doorways, and they'll come to the upper levels of the Baratie. At the top of the staircase, though, there is also 3 stickers on the walls. One says, "Fine quality dining, Baratie, catch of the day." And it's got a little picture of a fish and some bread on it. Then the one in the middle is slightly bigger, and it has some sort of like Kraken-type creature on it. And then the final one, I believe, is meant to depict the Cook Pirates, which is Captain Zeff's original pirate crew. There's the Cook Pirate logo in the corner, and I assume the person with the sword is meant to be like a younger version of Zeff. You can see a little bit of his mustache, and of course he's got the chef hat on, and there's another pirate with the chef hat right behind it. Before we properly move to the upper levels though, let's finish the rooms in the lower level, and next up we have this one right here, Sanji's kitchen. This room, just like every other room in the set, again, I want to really compliment how the designers truly understand space. Because once again, there is the perfect balance of detail and minifigure space, in a way that I've not seen a lot of other sets capture. Because there is actually quite a bit going on in this room. There's 2 separate tables to prepare food. This one has a little jumper piece for the counter, as well as a little pan on it. Then the one right behind it is built in the same exact way, and it's got a silver bowl as well as a crab. At the back, there's a sink where a minifigure can wash their hands, as well as what I assume is a little sponge next to it. And then the wall on the left side has tons of different things that you can use for cooking. There's a whisk, a pot, a pan, and a bowl, as well as some ingredients, right? We have a fish that's hanging a little egg right here, and it's very hard to see, but behind the pot and pan, there's some utensils. There's a spoon, which you could see, a fork, which you could kind of see, and a knife that's hidden. Luckily though, there's a better way to access them. There's this panel on the outside which can fold open, and with it open you can see those shells on the other side as well as those utensils I was pointing out. Standard spoon, standard fork, and a butcher's knife, so you can remove those if you want, give them to minifigures, and when you're done fold everything back up. This is where the brown door on the outside of the Baratie also opens up to, so that's how minifigures can get in and out. And then yeah, to wrap things up here, I guess I could just show you the space in action. Because as I mentioned, there's tons of room for minifigures, so if you want to have Sanji like cooking something in here, you can place him pretty much wherever you want. Facing any counter, any shelf, back using the sink, entering through the door. The room is built for minifigures to be placed any of those places and not feel cramped. So you can also place multiple minifigures in here too if you want to have like that busy kitchen, have multiple people be working on food. Great balance of tiles and studs once again too, where minifigures can pose all around but still looks very smooth. And then yeah, as I said, most of the individual modules can be removed. So if you want to take both of the counters out of the kitchen you can, and I believe the entire sink structure can come off too, yeah it can. So if you wanted to completely rearrange this kitchen like this, for example, you can do that as well. Now we'll move on from the kitchen to the opposite side, inside of the fish head, and this is like the little bar area. This area is once again, say it with me, a lot of open space. There's a combination of studs and tiles on the floor. We have 2 tables literally in the mouth here that have different drinks on them. One just has a transgreen bottle, the other has a martini glass. And there's no proper chairs, but there's a little bit of seating around the fish's mouth. And that has 2 total studs on it. So if you wanted to, you could set minifigures down there so they're at these tables. Alternatively, you could post them on studs and just have them stand around. Behind the tables, there is this little curved bar counter. It's got a silver chalice on it, and it's big enough to fit a minifigure behind it. Here's how that looks from the other side, where the minifigures can actually stand. There's a couple different transparent cone pieces, which I assume are meant to be ingredients to make the drinks, and there's a counter behind everything with even more. Behind the bar, too, is where another one of the wanted posters is kept. In the case of my set, that's where the Luffy one went. Of the 3 ground floor sections, I think this one's probably the weakest, but I still think it's really good, and I like how each section is distinctly different from each other, while still being full of detail and having tons of room to pose minifigures. A cool thing about this area too is obviously if you pose minifigures inside right here, you can actually see the minifigures from the front of the build, which you cannot necessarily do with the minifigures from the other areas. Now let's properly move to the upper levels of the Baratie. Immediately next to the staircase on both sides, there's another dining area. There's a railing that frames this overhang, and this table has a little lamp and a chalice just like the ones on the bottom floor, and there's a piece of meat on a plate as well. There's only a single teal chair for this table, and another one of the wanted posters is right behind it as well. On the other side of the staircase, there's a very similar dining area with the same exact table shape. This one, though, instead of the meat, has a little bowl on it, and there's actually 2 chairs at this table instead of just the one. The final wanted poster in this set is right behind this table, and once again, just like the rest of the set, the floor area is surprisingly spacious. There is tons of studs here that you can pose minifigures on. Next to this dining area, there's a tiny little door that can open up, and that leads into Zeff's quarters. In here, there's a desk with a brick-built chair in front of it. The chair's able to swivel, but unfortunately, it does not have any studs on it. So if you wanted to sit Zeff down here, there's no way for him to actually connect. He just has to sit loosely in the chair. He does have a peg leg, so I understand that you can't include like a normal Lego chair piece, but just having one stud for his leg to attach to would have been nice. However, that shouldn't be too difficult of a modification to make. The desk itself has a printed Lego map piece on the wall. I don't believe that's new for the Lego One Piece theme. I think that is just a generic Lego pirate map. However, of course, it still works for this theme. On the desk is a standard printed Lego compass piece and then a transponder snail. This is a very funny new build for these sets. We have this all-new snail piece, which only comes in Lego One Piece and Lego Animal Crossing, at least so far. Not sure which theme it was originally made for, but it works really well for both. But of course, in this set, it's not a regular snail, it's a transponder snail. So in place of its shell, it's got this little rotary phone dial, which is an all-new part for this wave. And that's just so awesome. These guys don't look as silly as they do in the anime, but I do think this is a pretty good translation into Lego form. And finally, next to the desk and chair is a little lamp, as well as this wardrobe that can open up. And there you can take a look at what's inside. Coming back to the dining room on the other side, there's some steps here that lead up to the next level, and that officially brings you back outside of the Baratie. Up here on this level, there's really not a ton going on. There's a few little seats that can spin, and they have corresponding tables, so this one has a silver chalice on it. This chair is right next to a table with a printed lime piece on it. The third one's right next to another chalice. And finally, there's a potted plant up here, and that is all the detail on this level. Everything else is literally just studs. But it serves as a nice viewing platform for minifigures. There's these golden railings they can look over. Of course, it's right above that main platform too, so if you want to have the fight between Zoro and Mihawk, characters can watch from up here. And that actually brings us to our final section of the build, this right here at the very top. Here we have the very elegant looking Baratie sign that is a sticker. There's 2 sand green pillars which really match the statues at the bottom. And this entire thing is almost like its own miniature ship. It can be detached from the rest of the build. You may have noticed I've not had it on so far to let more light in below it. But yeah, it can come off so you have better access to the interior. And if for whatever reason you wanted to display this on your own, you absolutely could. Not really sure what else I have to point out here beyond just what you see. I like how they use headlight bricks on their backs right here to create these open square shapes. There's a little figurehead with wings at the front that I think looks pretty cool. And these trans yellow lanterns that come off the sides are pretty fun. And if we move inside, this is definitely the least spacious part of the entire build, but even still, comparing it to some other sets, it's not bad. It's 4 studs deep, so you can see minifigures can pose in here without issue. And this is meant to be the treasure room, so there's a few different things in here. Some transparent cone pieces, there's this interesting rock piece that I believe originally comes from Lego City. It's an existing part, but if you don't have this one yet, it is a very neat one to get. Then on the upper level, we have some gems and a sword. There's 2 slightly higher platforms with ladders to get up to them. That's the newer Lego Minecraft ladder piece that was just introduced this year. So if you want to have characters posed up there, you can. However, there's only a 3x3 section of studs there. And unfortunately, there's no way for the minifigures to get to this room in-universe, right? There's no, like, stairway or ladders or anything to get from the rest of the build to here. You just have to place the minifigures directly in. That's not the end of the world. Plenty of Lego sets do that. And I think it's impressive that so much of the rest of the build is actually interconnected. But when everything else is interconnected, that would have been nice to see. Just some way to make this fit in with everything else. Because it does feel a little bit disjointed from the rest. So it is definitely the weakest part of the build, but I don't think that's the end of the world. Especially when everything else is so good. But there we go. I think that's everything I have to show you for the main build of the Baratie. Overall, I love it. This is one of my favorite D2C sets Lego's ever released. I know I've said it probably a million times in this video, but my favorite thing about it is really how spacious it is on the inside, while still feeling fully detailed right. It doesn't feel empty. But I'll talk about the build and everything else a little bit more at the end of this video. However, it's not the only thing in this set, so now let's take a look at the side build, then the minifigures, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts on everything at the end. Here's the one side build in this set, Mihawk's bow, and obviously it's very small, but that's what it's meant to be. I think it's fairly well done. The shape is very unique with these very precise angles. It almost looks like a coffin, and despite that shape being made up of bars and clips, it's actually very sturdy. It's able to maintain it really well. There's a candle on each side too. I don't know how these appear in the live action, so this is probably accurate to that, but at least in the anime, these have green fire on them, and I think that would have been very cool to see. Definitely would have made the boat stand out a bit more, but I guess the regular orange flames look cool too. The sail and the mast look pretty good too. I like how they did the folded up appearance of the sails. I think that's very accurate. However, I feel like the mast could look a little more interesting. Again, I'm talking about the anime because I'm not really sure about the live action, but the mast of the ship is designed to look like a larger version of Mihawk's sword. And I can definitely sort of see the sword influence here, but it's not as clear as it could be. so I would have liked if that was a bit more obvious. However, the sail does look great. And then there's the right amount of room on the ship. There's 6 studs for Mihawk to stand, as well as a seat for him to sit down. So if you want him on the boat with the sword on his back, he does have to be standing up. But if you put it in his hand instead, he can sit on the throne like this. It's a small build, but it's the scale it should be, and I'm glad it was included in this set. It's definitely a very important part of the Baratie scene. Oh, also, there's a little area in the back to hold on to something. For example, Mihawk's knife when he's not using it. Moving on to the minifigures, here are the first 2 in this set. We have Luffy and we have Nami. These are pretty standard versions of both of them. It's the Luffy with the hair hat combo piece, and then just Nami's standard East Blue outfit, but they both make a ton of sense to be included here. The hair hat combo piece for the straw hat is amazing. I love that we have 2 versions of this hat across the different sets, one with the hair and one without. And in this set, you do get the better face print for Luffy. I'm not a huge fan of the one that comes in the Mary, and that's the same one that comes in Buggy Circus, I believe, but instead in this set, you get the Arlong Park face print, and this just feels a lot closer to the character. He's got a very wide smile on this side of the face, and the alternate face is an angry expression, so you can actually have him fight, and both I feel like fit the character really well. And then torso and legs for him is the same across all the sets except for Arlong Park where he has the stretchy arms, but they did a great job capturing Luffy's outfit. He's got the red vest on with the gold buttons, and I'm just now realizing there's some little like dirt or scuff marks on him. That's a pretty cool way to show some of the wear on his outfit. And then he's got these amazing dual molded legs with printing at the bottom to make it look like his shorts are frayed, and there's little shoe printing on the feet too. Unfortunately, there's no side leg printing, which would have looked nice, because those shoes could have extended to the side and that like extra detail in the pants could have also extended, but even without that, I think this figure is pretty much perfect. This is by far the best version of Luffy, and technically this combination of parts does only come in this set, because this is the Arlong Park face print, but the Luffy in that set has the stretchy arms and no hat. However, you get this exact same figure in the Mary with the other face print, so you can get all of these parts elsewhere, but if you want this exact combination, this is the only set that they all come in. And then the next figure in this set is Nami, and she's one of the most common minifigures in the LEGO One Piece theme because she comes in 3 different sets in this outfit. By far not the cheapest way to get this minifigure, she comes in a $55 set, but again, I'm glad she was still included. Like, I like that the entire crew comes in this set. Despite being somewhat common though, Nami is still a great minifigure. I absolutely adore her new hairpiece. It's got that modern LEGO hairpiece style where it's quite big, but I love the texture in it, the way it sort of like flares out at the bottom, the fact that it's asymmetrical I think is really cool too. She's got dual molded arms, which are amazing to get. Definitely very useful parts to have. My only real critique of this minifigure is I feel like she really needed either side leg printing or dual molded legs, because she's supposed to have an orange skirt, and I think that looks great from the front, but when you turn to the side, her legs are just completely solid orange, and I feel like that seems a little bit off, especially when she's right next to Luffy, who does have the dual molded legs. Just having this like skin tone printing in the front also around the sides I think would do a lot, but this is a standard retail set, and side leg printing's not super common, so I get why it's not here. It's just especially when she's right next to Luffy, it feels a little bit off. Nami's got a pretty great new dual-sided face too. One side she's like annoyed or angry, and on the other side she's got this confident smirk. Definitely one of the less interesting minifigures in the set just because you can get her elsewhere, but she is definitely still a very good one. Here are the next 2 minifigures in the set, Usopp and Zoro, and once again, both of these figures do come in other sets. This version of Usopp is also in the Mary, and this version of Zoro is also in Buggy Circus. But just like Nami and Luffy, again, I think these 2 are really well done. Usopp's definitely the character who looks most like his live-action design and the least like his anime design. However, I actually quite like Usopp's live-action design, so I actually don't mind getting that here in place of the anime version. He's got a new dual-molded hairpiece with a bandana on top, and that bandana's in coral. I will say the coral feels a little bit bright for him. I would have liked something a bit darker. He has a dark green bandana in another set, and I think that looks amazing, but the coral works well enough here. He also has the classic Indiana Jones bag piece in bright orange, which is a new color for that part. But if we take that off, you can see his outfit better underneath, and it is a very classic looking Usopp outfit, the iconic like East Blue one from the anime. Usopp does get arm printing too, which is great to see, and there's look at the back torso print as well. Face print on Usopp I think is amazing. I especially love the scared face on the one side that just fits him so perfectly, but I feel like the happy face too captures his personality quite well. I think he is one of the best minifigures in this entire theme. And then Zoro has his blue outfit, which I'm a little disappointed to see because that means this outfit comes in 2 sets and the tan outfit, which is the more iconic outfit in my opinion, only comes in 1. Definitely would have preferred to get the tan outfit here, but I guess this is fine. Of course his accessories are 2 black katanas, and this set also comes with this all new sword attachment piece for Zoro's neck, so that way he can use 3-sword style and actually hold one of the swords in his mouth. If you switch to his alternate face where he's angry, you can see his teeth a little bit and it looks like he's actually biting onto the sword. And I think the way they made this part's a very clever way to do it. My favorite part is how you don't have to take the minifigure's head off to attach the sword, it just slides on around the neck. That's something I've only ever seen LEGO do before with the newer rubber cape pieces from LEGO Superheroes, but I'd love to see LEGO do more things like this, because it makes customization and play significantly easier. Zoro does also come with a new alternate hairpiece, which is an existing part but recolored in bright green. He's the only straw hat without an entirely new hairpiece, he gets the new bandana piece instead, but I think this works just fine for him. And honestly, I think it fits a little better with the dark blue outfit compared to the tan one. I just prefer the tan outfit overall. So yeah, once again, while there is other ways to get these minifigures, they are still great inclusions in this set. Now we can move on to the exclusive minifigures in this set, and here are the first two. We have the chef version of Sanji, and we have Zeff. It's so awesome to get this outfit for Sanji, and I think it's really cool that across all the sets, every single Straw Hat does have a second outfit that you can get. And this one's definitely a quite simple design, but I think it looks good. Sanji's got solid blue legs and like the blue apron on, and that's of course on top of the white shirt, which you can see a little bit better around the back. His face print and hair are the same ones from the Mary, but I do really like them, especially the hairpiece. Once again, it was all new design for him, and this is how it's supposed to go on, covering one eye. However, if you wanted to wear it like that, I guess you could. Definitely a little bit cursed. But for other characters who are not Sanji, I guess that looks okay. This is the way to do it, though. But yeah, the hairpiece is a good size without being too big. I feel like it fits him really well. Love how long it is around the back, too. And the actual face print, I'm pretty mixed on. The expression, I think, is great. I absolutely see Sanji in that expression. But because this is based off the live action and not the anime, a lot of the iconic features of Sanji's face are missing here. He doesn't have his very iconic, like, swirled eyebrows. And there's no facial hair either, which I think is a little bit odd. Definitely having a little bit in there, I think, would have helped. However, with the hairpiece on, I think that smile does capture Sanji's personality. And then he does have a double-sided face, however, I'm not a huge fan of the alternate face. The alternate face and only the alternate face comes from Jonesy from LEGO Fortnite. And I'm not really sure why they reused it here, especially because they made one new face for Sanji. Because that smirk, I mean, I guess it works okay. It's not the worst Sanji face ever, but I don't know, it feels like a little too much to me. For both of my Sanji minifigures, I definitely prefer this way. But if you want, I guess the other option is there. No leg printing, in fact, a lot of One Piece minifigures do not have any leg printing. We didn't see it on Zoro either, and I don't know if any of the other minifigures in the set have it. I think only Mihawk does. Which, like, obviously, leg printing would always be nice, but on these minifigures, I don't think it's super necessary. Sanji looks just fine without it. And then Zeff has a really cool design. First off, his hairpiece and beard are an all-new LEGO color introduced this summer. I believe it's only been used on, like, a LEGO Friends horse, like, on its mane has used that color. This, I think, is the first minifigure to ever use it. And it's sort of like a mustard yellow color. I'm curious what other minifigures are going to use this. Obviously, that means the hairpiece is an all-new recolor for this set. It's Zane's LEGO Ninjago movie hair, which I'm glad to get in more colors. And his mustache is actually an entirely new part, which I'm so glad they did. He does have that very iconic mustache in the show, so I'm glad they didn't skimp out and give him an existing piece, and instead made an entirely new mold for him. Something else interesting is the mustache piece is actually an extra piece in this set. So if you get this set, you'll have two of that part, so you can use the second one for whatever you want. Put it on a different minifigure if you wanted to do that for some reason. For such a new and specialized piece, I think it's awesome that you get extras. And there's a full look at his face print with the mustache and hair removed. He's got a very chiseled face. I feel like that's a pretty useful one too if you're not a fan of One Piece, just to make your own custom character. That looks pretty cool. And just like Sanji, he's got a chef's outfit on, but he's got this little blue scarf, and you can see a little bit of that around the back. And then he does have unprinted legs, however, one of the legs is a peg leg, and it is just the classic LEGO Pirates peg leg piece, nothing new about that. Zeff is not just an exclusive outfit in this set, he's an entirely exclusive character, and I think he's pretty perfect, and again, works pretty well for the anime version too. There's not a huge difference between his anime appearance and his show appearance. Here are the next two minifigures, once again, both exclusive characters to this set. The two Marine cadets, we have Koby and we have Helmeppo. And I have to say, I'm kind of blown away by how good these minifigures are. From what I've seen from One Piece, these two are both far from my favorite characters in the show, but man did they do their minifigures really, really well. These two I almost think work better as their anime designs than their live action designs, which I think is really amazing. Koby's got the big glasses and this very optimistic look on his face, and this I believe was originally a LEGO Harry Potter hairpiece, but it's been recolored in pink here. Then his alternate face, he looks very worried and concerned, and there's how that looks with the hairpiece too. These two both share the same exact torso piece, the Marine Cadet torso, so they do have the little tie around their neck, it says Cadet on a name badge, and around the back it says Marine. And they've got the same dual molded arms that Nami has, which just like with her, I love that these arms are becoming more accessible. Helmeppo is amazing too, I love the very awkward look on his face. He uses the classic Ninjago Nia hair but in bright yellow, which is such a funny way to depict his hairstyle, but it is very accurate. And his alternate face, he's like scared and about to cry. The LEGO One Piece minifigures overall are just so incredibly expressive, and I'm surprised to be saying this, but I think these two are some of the best of the line. Like, I can't deny that they're both genuinely just so well done. The only change I'd make to make it more like anime accurate is maybe give Koby short legs instead of the long legs, but beyond that, these two are great. And once again, no leg printing, but with these two, I think they absolutely do not need it. And now, here are the last two minifigures in this set, Vice Admiral Garp and Mihawk. Once again, fully exclusive characters, you do not get any version of these guys in any other set. We'll start with Garp because he's definitely the simpler of the two minifigures. He's another part of the Marines, just like Helmeppo and Koby. His solid white suit looks nice, though I do think he needed a little more detail on his legs. The unprinted legs are fine, but with him more than some other characters, it definitely feels like things cut off all of a sudden. button. I feel like he could have used a little bit of detail there. The red epaulets, though, are a pretty neat detail in the minifigure, and he's got a pretty nice new face print. It's an older man face, obviously, he's got the gray beard, but he's got intense eyebrows and a pretty wide smile on this side. And then if you turn him around, he does actually have an alternate face, despite not being a major character. And on this side of the face, he looks a lot more intense. His hairpiece is the sleepyhead hairpiece, but in light bluish gray, which is definitely a slightly rarer color for that part. So probably not one of my favorite minifigures in the set, but still pretty good. And again, I love getting all of these exclusive characters here. But finally, we come to Mihawk, which is probably the most wanted character for a lot of people in this set, because he just has such a cool design. First off, let's talk about his sword, the Yoru. It is an all-new exclusive part for this set, and I'm so glad they took the care to actually do that, because they very easily could have done a brick build or just given him a normal sword, but his sword is one of the most iconic parts of his character, so making this entirely new piece is amazing, and it looks so good. I love that they captured the scale of the sword too, like it is ridiculously big. He's got the very ornate hilt, and there's even details on the handle. Like, this looks amazing. The Mihawk minifigure too has a neck bracket on him, and that's actually so he can attach the sword directly to his back. There's a little bar connection right in the hilt, just big enough to fit into this neck bracket, so that way he could carry the sword around without having like a full-size scabbard. And that does look so sick to just have that on his back. Mihawk's hat is not new, but it's one we've not gotten in a little bit in this color. It's the fedora piece that originally was introduced with the Lone Ranger line, so it's slightly bigger than like the classic Indiana Jones fedora. And then of course he's got an exclusive new face print with the mustache, the beard, the orange eyes. Love how intense his expression is. But unfortunately, because the hat does show the back of his head, there is no alternate face. Torso print is great though, with a completely open jacket so you can see his chest and everything. And I'm so happy to say that the chest is actually printed well. LEGO has an issue a lot of the time where if they print light colors on top of a dark piece, it comes out looking very murky, and the colors are completely wrong. So when we have a character who's slightly shirtless like this, sometimes the figure turns out like very ugly and disgusting looking. So with a print like this, I'd be very concerned. But no, it seems like they purposefully tried to avoid it on this one. So while the color matching is not 100% perfect, the skin tone of his chest is very close to his face and his hands, a lot closer than some other minifigures we've seen. Take a look at Cole from Ninjago Hunted for an example of this done poorly. This is very good. I'm glad for a minifigure in a premium set, they actually took the care to print it well. Mihawk has brown pants, but it's supposed to look like his black cloak is draping over top of them. So instead of doing like dual molded legs or something, his legs are entirely black. And this is one of the few cases where, unlike the Nami minifigure, I feel like this actually adds to the detail, because it makes it look like the black cloak is actually wrapping around the legs. So that change in color from the front to the sides actually makes sense. The slight gold foil printing on his torso too looks very elegant, and you can see that continues around the back as well as with a little bit of purple. Oh, and then you can see his other accessory is just a golden knife piece, which is of course the weapon that he fought Zoro with. I think this is yet another perfect minifigure. I love that they went all out with him. He's one of the few minifigures from this theme that has leg printing. There is absolutely nothing I would change about him except for maybe color matching that torso a little bit better, but it's the closest I've seen from LEGO in years, so I can't complain too much. This guy's fantastic. But now, what are my thoughts on this set overall? I think the Baratie is a phenomenal set. So many great minifigures. I love that you have 6 exclusives here, and the ones that aren't exclusive are still really great to get. The build is pretty on the outside, spacious and beautiful on the inside. It's fun to play with, it's awesome to display. Genuinely, it's everything I want from a D2C set like this. My only real minor critique is like the price. It could be better. It's not the worst price set I've ever seen, especially compared to a lot of the stuff we get these days. It is on like the good end of D2C sets, but it's not amazing. Compare this to like the Ninjago City Markets, for example, which is a similar price and still on shelves. You definitely get a better value with that set. But considering this is a licensed set and the price isn't bad, it's just not as good as it should be, honestly, yeah, I highly recommend this one. Obviously, big sets like this are not for everybody. It is very expensive, but if you're a fan of One Piece and you can afford it, or you're thinking about saving up for it, this is one of those sets that I know I am going to love for years. My previous favorite D2C was Mos Eisley Cantina, and this feels so similar to it in so many ways. I want to see more things like this from LEGO. But of course, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of this set in the comments below. If you missed it, I have been reviewing all of the LEGO One Piece sets. There should be at least one other up on my channel right now, and I'll be reviewing more sets over the next few days, so let me know in the comments which set you want to see reviewed next. But as for this video, I think that's about all I have to say, so thanks for watching everybody, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!